Hello and welcome to the GenXplainers Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking movies, specifically the movies from 1982. And we'll start off by talking about the movies that were nominated for Best Picture for that year. Let me welcome the panel. Mike, say hello.
Hello.
And Alan.
Hello.
And so, 82. We were in our early teens at the time. So these movies, we may not have seen them in the theater because some of them were just not our bag, perhaps. But, in subsequent years, obviously, we saw most of them. I'll tell you one thing. Let's go through the movies first. The nominees for Best Picture were E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Gandhi, Missing, Tootsie, and The Verdict. Now, I can tell you, definitely, I saw E.T. in the theater because that was was the target demo. You guys probably did too, yeah?
Yeah, I saw that one, and I only saw Tootsie in the theater. The other ones I didn't see in the theater at all.
I might. Go ahead.
Oh, I saw E.T., I saw Tootsie, and I saw Gandhi in the theater.
I probably saw Tootsie as well. I know I didn't see Gandhi. I'm pretty sure I didn't see that till later. And I did not see Missing, and I did not see The Verdict at age 14. Probably wouldn't have liked them, but maybe.
Yeah. You were 14? God, you guys are old.
Well, 14 or 13, probably 14, right?
I'm kidding.
I turned 14 that year.
That year, yeah. So let's just talk about each one of those in turn. Let's start with E.T.
E.T. Home phone.
E.T. phone home. E.T. phone home. E.T. phone home. He wants to call somebody.
What's all this shit?
E.T. phone home.
Oh my God, he's talking.
Home.
E.T. phone home.
E.T. phone home.
Do you have any memory of seeing it at the time, since we all saw it when it came out?
I do, and it's interesting. I rewatched it for the podcast with my partner, and she is younger than I am. And when she saw it, she was a little kid. And when I saw it, I was 14, and she was saying like, "Oh, doesn't this always evoke childhood for you?" And I said, "Actually, I saw it when I was 14." And so I was already into that sort of cynical teenage, like, this is for kids, and I'm not a kid. So as much as I enjoyed it, I also was trying to rebel against enjoying it.
Right. Yeah. Your protagonist in that movie is very little kid, very, and yeah, you were like, this isn't for me. I want to watch Alien or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. My memory is very specific because when I saw it in the theater, it was right. We were going to a showing, but I had an optometry appointment right before, and they dilated my pupils, and I didn't officially see the movie. I was in the theater looking at moving lights and shapes and hearing the movie.
Yes.
Because my eyes I couldn't see a dang thing. After I saw it later, and that's what an ET looks like. So yeah, that's my memory of it. Sitting in the theater going, I can't discern anything. It sounds like a fun movie. There's a lot of music.
There's a lot of people going, ah.
Yeah. So yeah, what's notable? Like, we talked about the Spielberg themes. That's kind of notable. It was like, he had done Close Encounters and obviously Jaws and things first already. And he had already done those movies already. And, he was sort of really just on a trajectory up, and his themes are there. Adult world and child world is big because, certainly like the adults be representing like the government or establishment or whatever, because they're just faceless and headless people with flashlights for most of the movie, or
and
they're
and keychains.
and the keychain, sure.
Always keychains.
Or they're like in these, or they're like aliens or they're like spacemen, totally like, yeah. Anyway.
And even the mother figure, who is not like that, is not regarded as an ally, especially when they first.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Of
It's
course.
like it's a conspiracy of children because they can't. The adults are not to be trusted.
Right. Exactly. She won't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, she won't be as because she's part of that adult world, and growing up means killing your soul or something, whatever you want to, however you want to say it. But yeah, growing up is losing something, basically. First appearance of Drew Barrymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very early in her life.
Got her on her road, her rocky road to stardom.
Arguably, that road started decades before, but yeah.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I from my point of view now, I enjoy the movie a lot. How do you guys feel about it now in retrospect?
Manipulative.
Oh yeah.
But hey, that's kind of like his movies, and well, I shouldn't say all of his movies. A lot of his movies are that way. I would say the more subtle movies like Close Encounters and stuff like that are less so, because it's not the big music. It's not John Williams coming in and like becoming a character. I mean, he does in Close Encounters, but not in the same way.
Yeah, I think in Close Encounters it's sort of a feeling of awe and mystery, and in this one it's really about
make you cry.
Yeah, it's like look how
Although I will say that when I saw it in the theater when I was young, I don't think I teared up at all. I didn't tear up in it until later on in life, which is weird. And even though I know what's going to happen, and it's very strange.
I don't remember if I were, well, again, the very first time, I don't remember.
Well, yeah,
I'm sure the first time. I was tearing up because I had drops, ophthalmological drops. It's a hard thing to say, but yeah, that was the reason I was tearing up. But yeah, I mean, later on, I think you sort of you connect in a different way, I guess, but at the time you're young and you're like, whatever, things are just happening around me.
Get back to the bike riding.
They flew.
Something I could say about a lot of the movies we're going to talk about today, but like a movie is a manipulation from beginning to end. It always is, no matter whether, even if it's a documentary. And it's whether you can see the manipulation happening. And sometimes in E.T., even as a 14-year-old, I'm like, oh, here we go. So it's a little bit of an eye roll compared to, like you were saying, Close Encounters, where maybe you don't notice it as much, or at least I didn't when I first saw it.
I think it's fair to say that Spielberg is a very emotionally manipulative filmmaker, because that's his gig, and that's what he wants you to feel. So he's going to use every tool, music, cinematography, everything. But I think he tempers that with a very smart and clever filmmaking style. That's just how he is. Like you think of some of the sad moments of E.T. where, it's not spoilers because these movies are, from 82, but like when E.T. dies on the medical table.
What?
Oh shoot, sorry. And she's crying and sad, but then like when E.T. when he does his connection with him and is crying over the I guess it's like this hermetically sealed coffin thing they put him in. Spielberg is very clever in the way he turns the mood too. It's like the heart light, his heart lights up, and you see the light coming out of the window on the top of the coffin just very briefly as the camera moves away. And then later when Elliot realizes he's come back and he's pretending to cry, and that becomes very funny and a release valve of that sort of sadness that he made you feel. And like he's pretending to cry, and then he uses his composition to show the flower coming back to life, and Elliot noticing and like smiling, and then he keeps pretending he's crying. That's a Spielberg touch as well, that goes with sort of the emotional roller coaster he puts you on, or the manipulation. And to me, that is a talent. I mean, not everyone can get away with that kind of thing, I think. And I think that's where he's really good.
Well, and also in this particular movie, he does a really clever thing also with the showing the connection between them, because you don't outright say it. They obviously explains it later on. The brother does. He said, "Oh, they're connected," kind of thing. But up to that point, you only get bits and pieces of that, and you understand it, but it's not like put it in your face, like say it on the screen to you.
Right.
You know it specifically with the school scene where he's getting drunk at home and all that stuff. That's the most probably in your face part of it.
One thing that you should be looking for during the dissection is to locate the heart and notice that it is still beating. Okay, to once more emphasize the similarities of those things which we see in the similarities.
It's just handled in a very amusing way, and a cute way,
And I think that scene in particular is where, a lot of the filmmakers of that kind of generation, certainly George Lucas, as well, they're very nostalgic film directors or storytellers, I should say. And that scene, it really comes out, there's the whole connection thing, and it's a very well composed and adventurous, fun little scene. But ending with the soldier on TV kissing the woman, and then that being reenacted in the school, and the little twist of her heel afterwards, which is a very kind of 1940s, early 1950s kind of expression that I ask my kids when they saw it, but I'm sure they have no idea what that even meant.
Right.
And of course, you have to at least mention the fact that I'm not sure that any of us would be eating Reese's Pieces today if it wasn't for that film and the big botched marketing job from M&M's.
Yeah, I've forgotten that was a kind of a big tie-in.
Yeah, and I don't like. It's a good candy, but it got this kind of exposure, and that's why it became popular. So
yeah. Okay, well, moving on. Let's go to the next film, and that is Gandhi, Richard Attenborough's film biopic about Gandhi.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
What I would like to do is to come to some compromise over the new
If you would excuse me, Your Excellency, it is our view that matters have gone beyond legislation. We think it is time you recognized that you are masters in someone else's home. Despite the best intentions of the best of you, you must, in the nature of things, humiliate us to control us.
You don't think we're just going to walk out of India?
Yes. In the end, you will walk out. Because 100,000 Englishmen simply cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate. And that is what we intend to achieve. Peaceful, non-violent, non-cooperation, till you yourself see the wisdom of leaving, Your Excellency.
So yeah, this film, again, I don't think I saw this in the theater, but Alan, you mentioned you might have.
No, I did.
All right. Mm-hmm. What do you remember of your experience of seeing it back then?
I certainly remember being almost overwhelmed by the power of the individual Gandhi as portrayed in the film.
Right.
Continuing the theme that movies are manipulation.
Right.
Turns out later, some of those things that I saw that I was so like, yeah, that's right. Turns out he didn't do. But right. Or he did slightly differently, for example.
That's the other
in South Africa.
Right.
Yeah, he fought for Indian rights in South Africa, but he was just basically saying I shouldn't have to come in with black people.
Right. He still wanted that porter to serve him and not be in his room, but he wanted to be in that first class cabin.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a bit of a hagiography, but no, I was blown away. I mean, we are all flawed individuals from, the lowest to the highest. So, but what he did was so amazing and so singular in the 20th century.
How about you, Mike? Do you remember tell us your Gandhi story, Mike.
Well, I just started watching it last night.
I want to pop in here. Gandhi, a big movie, historic movie. Mike is a programming director of a film festival, and he had never seen Gandhi. So I'm just going to say that right now. I'm not judging. You can judge out in the listening.
Anyway, I will finish it after we're done.
Okay, good.
I'm at the intermission.
Okay.
It's a long movie.
Yeah,
it is. It's a 3 hours and like 7 minutes, something like that. So yeah. My impression was, man, there's a lot of extras in this movie. But no, what of the half I've seen so far, I was actually, even though this is widely sweeping epic movie, the way they portray his character, it almost feels like he's big, but he's also small and doesn't really notice the scope around him as much. And I found that very interesting, that there's this really ultra personal element in this movie, which I think is probably the heart of the movie, for his character at least. How he's one of many, and you don't feel like even though the people are kind of worshiping him and they're showing that, I don't think he really shows that at least the way Kingsley portrays him. I still can't believe this is like his first like big role. I felt like he overshadows all these amazing actors who were in it already, Gielgud and all these other people. It's like he's overshadowing these people, and just by being this, I don't know. It's very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of it, because the only reason I put it off for years is because of the length of it, and I'm like, and I've never been a huge biopic person, but I'm really fascinated. I'm sad that I actually have put it off this long after seeing the first half of it so far.
Yeah,
the way they're capturing the spirit of him and the people is really, really great. So.
Oh, it's powerful. I mean, I think the appeal of the character as portrayed is that he takes deadly seriously all the basic concepts that we all pretty much agree on of how to be good. But most of us, the vast majority of us, are like, well, yeah, that's good, but in this circumstance, like, it's better to tell a lie, or in this circumstance, I have to make some money. And he doesn't do that. Like, he interrupts a meeting with all of the leaders of India to go make a mud pack for a goat has a sprained leg. It's just
right. But let's talk quickly about Ben Kingsley, like you said. His first role, or first major role, I guess, right?
First major role. First leading role, because I think he started in the late 60s.
Oh, yeah.
He's like 40 years old when this movie.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly being the star, to cast him as the star of a film about a figure like Gandhi is pretty huge, pretty good career move for him. But he was fantastic. He's great.
Yeah.
He's so good.
I mean, it's a very non-commercial film too. It's like
did very well though, right? Didn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's unsurprisingly, I believe it is the highest grossing film in India.
Well, sure.
Yeah, I don't know how well it did here theatrically, but
India has a pretty vigorous movie system, so it's not to be dismissed.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on in the interest of time.
Well, I could just say one thing about the storytelling of it.
Okay,
it's like I do like how Richard Attenborough treats it in a very sort of classic Hollywood. You don't. There's a lot of establishing shots and a lot of widescreen, and it does feel like an old-fashioned movie. And I think it really works with the material in the story here. And I urge you to watch it again, Matt, because you will see some there's some actors in there that surprised me, because I saw it when I was a kid and I hadn't seen it since. And, Athol Fugard, the famous South African playwright, is one, a character. John Ratzenberger from Cheers is in there. Martin Sheen.
Right. I remember Martin Sheen.
As an extra, kind of, he is in the credits, a young Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Let's move on to the next film, Missing. Now, I did not see Missing when it came out. I remember the trailers for it. And, this one is directed by Costa Gavras. And this one is based on a book. Again, this is one that's, it's based on it. Grains of salt should be taken, I guess. But it's about the Chilean coup that put Pinochet in power, and America's involvement. And it's a story of a family looking for their missing husband and son.
Did you find out anything in Washington?
No, but Putnam there seems to think that things down here are in pretty good hands. You don't agree?
Well, I don't expect a whole hell of a lot anymore.
Oh. Why?
He's been gone 2 weeks. And I don't know, they give me the same song and dance over and over again. He could be hurt or tortured. They don't give a goddamn about him.
Oh, look, really, I don't want to hear any of your anti-establishment paranoia. I certainly get enough of that from my son. If he had settled down where he belongs, this never would have happened in the first place. Please don't cry. Beth, I'll find him.
A couple things off the bat. Jack Lemmon is so good.
Yeah.
In general. Yeah. I mean,
I actually think Sissy Spacek is pretty amazing. I actually think that she, for me, is more of the person who commands the scenes that she's in. So
maybe I might disagree, but she is very good.
Well, and I think the friction between the two of them is like a perfect capturing of the generational conflict of that time.
Right. And I think that's a huge theme in it.
Yeah.
Again, duality theme of like the father being traditional, trusting the institutions, and these kids and their idealism kind of thing. You should have just got a job. And she's from the younger world who's like, well, we want to live our life. We don't, we're doing things that don't seem to make sense to you because they're flighty or something. And, and you think we're kicking up trouble, but we just want to know about the world. Even their acting styles kind of work really well to show the conflict. Cause Jack Lemmon is from a period in Hollywood and an acting style that's kind of more traditional maybe. And Spacek came out in the 70s or, was a later and a younger actress. And, perhaps her method of acting is different.
I actually think that conflict between them, the way they build it is so perfect and actually makes the ending even more powerful.
Yes.
The reaction at the end with the two of them when they discover something is really important to what's gone on in the rest of the film is really important to the scene between them. And I thought that was, and the way they do it is so matter of fact and fast, but it's so powerful in that moment. So.
Right. Yeah. Cause you see them in the beginning, having a lot of sort of friction and perhaps ideological friction about how people should live their lives or, why are you even down here? And then what I love is that gradual wearing down of the naivete of Lemon's character.
Yeah.
When they're like people who are down there, they're having these meetings, and he has just come down to help find his son, and they keep hearing gunshots, and Lemon's the only one reacting to them. Everyone else is like, yeah, well, this just happens, dude. You don't know what's, and Spacek especially, she's like, and he like asks these questions that she asked already, but he just doesn't give her any credit for anything, like he like represents like this sort of idea of like, well, I'm going to come swoop down and I'm going to fix things. It's a very American thing to think, way to think, maybe.
Yeah.
And she's just like, you don't understand how things work down here. And you don't, and it's so hard for you to believe that our government down here has interests other than just protecting Americans. It's not about, if you're an American who owns a corporation, maybe, it has trade interests or whatever, then they'll care about you. But, he's being very naive in the beginning, and he just sort of gradually is like, and I think Lemon is understated. I think he's very good in this. I mean,
there's a couple scenes which I thought was so great, and the way they developed that aspect of it too is like they're being interviewed together, and she's filling in gaps of what his son was doing, and he's like, what?
He's surprised. He's like,
he did what? He worked 18-hour days. What are you talking about?
Right.
Couldn't believe his son was involved in any of this.
You almost I had the feeling that when he first arrived, because the way he treats Sissy Spacek, and then of course the other friend, it's as if he's trying to figure out which one of these young women has corrupted my son.
Right.
Which is like, I mean, it really is this very patriarchal, very like, you kids don't know what you're talking about, and you're just like, oh, you're pretending to live in poverty, but you have a round trip ticket home. And
right. Yeah. Specifically, the scene that I think about for Lemon is the scene where he's in the office of the consul and the embassy or whatever, and he's basically saying, I'll sign whatever you want. I won't say anything. I just want my boy back, whatever condition he's in.
I know you're doing your best. I have to believe that. That's our only hope. But you have all the machinery on your side. Don't you see? You have all the connections. I'm a middle-aged businessman from New York City. I don't speak one word of Spanish. Here I am. My son may have been shot. Maybe he was tortured. Maybe he was, oh, Lord, beaten so badly that they're keeping him until he's well enough to be released. I don't know. I don't care. Oh, really, I don't care. Because what is done is done. I just want you to reach those people and tell them I will take Charles back in any condition. I'm not going to make a stink. I'm not going to go to the newspapers. You make out any kind of a release form, I will sign it. I will absolve anyone, everyone of everything. I just want my boy back. He's the only child I have.
So yeah, Lemon's great. Spacek's great. There was a scene in there that also I want to just touch on, where they talk about where he's in their apartment, and he's like Mike had mentioned, he's like kind of learning things about his son that he just didn't know. He's all surprised that he was writing doing a children's film, an animated film. And so he was trying to write that. And then they also talk about this book, The Little Prince, and the line that she sort of reads or says is, it's only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye, and he says, and he kind of reiterates, says, well, what's essential? And she says, the stuff you can't see, and that kind of is a really nice scene that kind of underpins the theme, is like, what is presented to you, isn't necessarily what is true. You can't just rely on that, what someone says, or no, that's not the important thing. The important things are the things you can't see. And in this case, they're talking about love, or like, maybe kinship or something. But it kind of works with the theme. It's like some scales are being taken away from his eyes.
Yes.
About how the world works, or his institutions work, maybe, Yeah. I think a funny scene that kind of works with this idea of what's presented to you versus, what is essential, what is true. There's a scene where I think some neighbors from across the street are trying to agree on what happened when the military picked up the guy, and Costa-Gavras chooses to keep showing the versions of what they're saying, and I feel like a married couple who are like arguing about it. No, it was a civilian truck, but in every and so it keeps changing, so you just don't know what the truth is. And people are fallible in their memory, or maybe they don't want to say it because they're afraid. But the thing that's in every one of those reenactments is that soldier kicks a duck.
Yes.
And I just kept watching, going, that poor duck. Even in the filmmaking, I hope it was just a fake thing. I think it was. I really put a lot of effort into the scene because they rewound it and kept watching it. It's like, I think the soldier like makes a kick movement, and I think some extra throws the duck over the hedge. That's what I decided.
That's what I hope.
Yes. Anyway.
Just to amplify the scene that you're talking about, where they talk about, what's essential is cannot be seen, ends with him saying, it's like he almost had a willful naivete. And Sissy Spacek says, well, what's so wrong with that? And he said, well, what's so good about it? Or she's like, what's so bad about that? And he's like, well, what's so good about it? Which is interesting because the whole movie really is about him going from being naive, from living, to look at it, to interpret it through the lens of today. He leads a life of immense privilege.
Right.
And has no idea how the world works outside of New York.
Right. His bubble.
Yeah.
And what other things I like, though, like there's a lot of stuff that Costa-Gavras does throughout the film, like in scenes to make it more powerful. It gets revealed and more. And one of the things I remember very well is they're going through that huge place filled with bodies, and they find Frank there.
Yeah.
And then that at the end of that scene, it's like the reveal of like they look up and that the whole ceiling is that glass ceiling. There's all these shadows of bodies on top too. It's like really powerful stuff like that he does a lot in each scene, where he reveals more and more as you go along to make it more and more. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Yeah, even in the time leading up to that scene, they go into all these separate little rooms, and they're going through the rooms, and each room is filled with bodies, and you think, oh, this must be where they're going to, and they're like, no, these have all been identified. Oh, these have been too. And it's like, how many freaking rooms are there of dead people? Exactly what you said. He just kind of keeps escalating and saying the scope of it. He's
really effective. Good. Really effective.
Yeah. So moving on to the next movie, Tootsie. Thematically and tonally different than the last movie, but Tootsie is a film with Dustin Hoffman, and it was very popular. I remember it. I don't remember, but I probably saw this pretty close to when it came out. I know, Alan, you again said you saw this, right? And Mike, did you see this?
Theater.
Yeah. This is one of the movies my mom and I went to go see in the theater. So
yeah, a comedy. Basically, Dustin Hoffman's a struggling actor, and he through a series of kooky situations winds up auditioning for a female role, or role of a female character. So he gets dressed up. I guess it's in drag. Is it be considered drag, or is he just? See, here's the funny thing about Tootsie is, like, viewed through the lens of today, there's a lot we can talk about. But at the time, a lot of the comedy was, oh, look, Dustin Hoffman's wearing a dress, and a lot of the jokes are sort of rooted in that. And it's like, okay, doesn't age too well, because it's not inherently funny, but we'll get more into this. But there's other stuff going on.
Are you saying that nobody in New York will work with me?
Oh, no, that's too limiting. Nobody in Hollywood wants to work with you either. I can't even send you up for a commercial. You played a tomato for 30 seconds. They went a half a day over schedule because you wouldn't sit down.
Yes, it wasn't logical.
You were a tomato! A tomato doesn't have logic. A tomato can't move.
That's what I said. So if he can't move, how's he gonna sit down, George? I was a stand-up tomato, a juicy, sexy beefsteak tomato. Nobody does vegetables like me. I did an evening of vegetables off Broadway. I did the best tomato, the best cucumber. I did an endive salad that knocked the critics on their ass.
Michael, I'm trying to stay calm here. You are a wonderful actor.
Thank you.
But you're too much trouble. Get some therapy.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna raise $8,000, and I'm gonna do Jeff's play.
Michael, You're not going to raise 25 cents. No one will hire you.
Oh, yeah?
So yeah, Tootsie, what are your feelings on it?
Well, I personally, it's one of my favorite comedies.
It is extremely funny. I have to
it's
say
one
that.
of my favorite. It's one of my favorite comedies. So I every time I come across it when it's on, I just leave it on, and I never get tired of watching it. There's a few films like that for me, and this is one of them. I just think that the casting is great. I think it's one of Terry Garr's best roles. Jessica Lange is amazing in it. I think Bill Murray is, he's used in exactly the way Bill Murray should be used in this movie.
Yeah.
For his character, that is not. I mean, he can do so much more, but I'm just saying in this particular movie, he's not overused. He used the right amount. But I think like there's certain scenes that are just absolutely brilliant as far as comedy goes.
Yeah.
I would not call it necessarily an amazingly directed movie or anything like that. I would call it just a really smartly written, great performances. And, I think one of my favorite characters in the whole film is Charles Durning's character. And again, he's only used in bits and pieces, but when he's in it, it's so effective in a comedic way, especially towards the end, with the big reveal. There's so much about it that I think is really good. And I think it is, Dustin Hoffman plays it exactly the way he needs to play it he doesn't do too many comedies. When he does it very well. And I think this is probably his best comedy that he's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the supporting cast is very strong, and yeah, every character kind of really fulfills every character is showing a different facet of the themes they're exploring, I think, in a way. And I think Charles Durning, you mentioned, is that part where he kind of comes to realize, again, these supporting characters don't have huge like pages of dialogue or pages, scenes, but they all do a great job,
Yeah.
I mean, Durning's an example, and that character goes through a lot emotionally about when he realizes things and when he's feeling, and it's a backstory there that he really conveys, like the love of his late wife and him feeling like he can finally connect. And then that sort of huge betrayal that happens in his mind, maybe. Yeah. But then coming to terms. I mean, it's just it's a smaller role, but it's a really good arc. And they have great actors doing these things, performing these roles.
And it is funny when Sidney Pollack is doing his scenes, I find it very sad that he didn't do more of that in movies, whereas because he does it so well and he's hilarious.
He is hilarious.
I love Sidney Pollack when he acts.
Yeah. He's every time he does, it's good.
The tea room scene is one of the best friggin' scenes. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And he really is in every movie I've ever seen him in. He's just playing Sidney Pollack.
Yeah.
He's just the same kind of like, are you out of your fucking mind kind of character. He's great in like Michael Clayton. He's still playing that part. And of course, directing this movie. But all of the acting is fantastic. I also think the interesting thing about this movie to me, because I can't help but look at it through the lens of today, even though I can remember what it was like to look at it through the lens of then. I loved it when I was a kid. I thought it was really, really fun. And I think Dustin Hoffman is perfect for that role, because I'm not really sure that Dustin Hoffman is that much different as an actor to work with as character is.
Right. Yeah. Because his character is kind of, he's not. Hoffman does a great job of portraying this kind of, he's not all that likable in the beginning. I mean, maybe you feel bad he can't find work, but it's self-imposed. He's kind of he's very difficult. And he also, and it also shows him his attitude towards women, which is a huge theme in this movie. And he's at his birthday party trying to pick up on everybody. And you're kind of like, this guy's kind of douchey, and kind of a womanizer, maybe trying to be, So that helps with the arc of his character, and he plays it subtly. I mean, he does a very good job.
And there's a thing about it, which is, and I think a lot of people decry this, but I think it's human. I think it's very human that men don't understand what women go through unless it's visited upon them.
Right.
But I think, and that is regrettable, but I also think it's just a human truth. I think that's true for a lot of people. You know, there are hierarchies of oppression, and there's some people that are, you know, midway down who don't understand quite what it's like for people a little bit below there. I wish we all could, but it is a truth, and I think it's an important thing to talk about for this film too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Again, about the supporting cast, you got Dabney Coleman in there playing the old Dabney Coleman role.
Well, yes.
He does that perfectly. He's very good.
Gosh, I'm afraid you're not right for this role, though, honey. I'm sorry. Thanks for coming by.
Page 285. Do you want camera 1 or 2 on that?
Camera 2, and tell Art about that.
Why am I not right, Mr. Carlyle?
Well, I'm just trying to make a certain statement here, and I'm looking for a very specific physical type.
Mr. Carlyle, I'm an actress. I'm a character actress. I can play this part any way you want.
Honey, I'm sure that
Why
you're a
don't you
very,
give me an
very
idea
good
what you're
actress. It's
looking
just
for?
that you're a little bit too soft
What?
and genteel. You're not threatening enough.
Not threatening enough? How's this? You take your hands off me, or I'm gonna knead your balls right through the roof of your mouth. Is that enough of a threat?
To start?
Yes, I think I know what y'all really want. You want some gross caricature of a woman to prove some idiotic point, like power makes women masculine, or masculine women are ugly. Well, shame on the woman that lets you do that, on any woman that lets you do that. And that means you, dear. Miss Marshall, shame on you, you macho shithead.
Jesus.
What is idiotic about power making a woman masculine? Not that that was my point.
The comedy that's based on people reacting to cross-dressing is maybe a little dated. I mean, but that said, they do tackle some other related issues, or at least the issues like sexism, like in general, but in show business, double standards, the unwanted sexual advances that happen. And in 82, even, you know, this shit was going on all the time. It was normal.
Yeah.
And you get the sense from Lang and from Gina Davis's character and all the women who are in the workplace there, they just have to deal with this shit. And then, like you said, Al, the men just don't fucking know, or they just, you know, they don't care.
They're completely blind to it.
Right. Or they're just like, well, that's my right. That's how it is, kind of thing, you know? And the effective message here is for Dustin Hoffman's character having to come up against it, having to deal with it. And, you know, he falls in love with Jessica Lange's character. And at the end, there's that line, that big line. I'm trying to see if I can find it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find the line and I'll put it right here.
But I was a better man with you as a woman than I ever was with a woman as a man. You know what I mean?
And then my reaction will be like, yeah.
Oh, that was well said. That was a good, but it's a good line. It's like at the end when she decides to give him another chance, and he's talking about how he has experienced personal growth from seeing how things really are in a way.
Yeah.
And how, you know, even in the acting world, this is a bit of a reach, but even in the acting world, he's a privilege to be like a white actor. And then he sees the things that female actors have to go through to get jobs, and just what they have to deal with on a job, even, you know. So that growth is there. That's his arc, and that's a very good theme and a good arc to have in there too.
And one thing we should point out, it's a really nutty hospital.
I would say that's one of the funniest lines that I remember from seeing it is Murray, the cutting to Murray watching the TV in the apartment.
Edward Kimberly, and I'm not mentally ill, but proud and lucky and strong enough to be the woman that was the best part of my manhood, the best part of myself.
That is one nutty hospital.
I knew there was a reason she didn't like me.
Commercial.
Cut it.
And you know what the other funniest moment in that movie is? The other funniest moment is when right after he reveals that he's a man on live TV, and he gets a punch from Jessica Lange, which I like. It's a punch and not a slap. I like that. He's walking through the park all sad, and there's a mime, and he pushes the mime
yes,
down.
Of course, yes.
I love that. And the mime's like, so yeah, Tootsie, anything else you want to say about that?
No, just imagine yourself in other people's shoes. It helps.
If you haven't seen it, it's worth watching. There's some very funny moments and some classic moments that you can bust out at parties. So let's get to, this is our fifth and final film, right? That was nominated.
Of the nominations,
Of the nominations. The Verdict with Paul Newman. Now, this one I might have seen once at some point. When I watched it again for the podcast, I remembered certain things, but for the most part, it felt pretty fresh. And it might be that I saw it young and I didn't pick up on things.
Yeah.
But it might be that I've seen scenes, through tribute videos or through award shows or something that show scenes, because I recognize some of the scenes to be very famous.
Dr. Towler has testified that he restored the heartbeat in 3 to 4 minutes. Now, in your opinion, is that an accurate estimate?
In my opinion, it took much longer. 9, 10 minutes. There's too much brain damage.
Are you saying that a failure to restore the heartbeat within 9 minutes in itself constitutes bad medical practice?
Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Galvin.
If I may be permitted to question my own witness in my own way.
I'd just like to get to the point, Mr. Galvin.
I am getting
Mr.
to the...
Galvin, I believe I have the right to ask the witness a direct question. Now, let's not waste these people's time. Answer the question, Mr. Witness, please. Would a 9-minute lapse in restoring the heartbeat in and of itself be negligence?
In that small context, I would have to say no.
Then you're saying there's no negligence, based on my question.
Given the limits of your question, that's correct.
The doctors were not negligent. Thank you.
I'm not through questioning. Your Honor, with all due respect, if you're going to try my case for me, I wish you wouldn't lose it.
How about you guys? What was your experience with The Verdict?
Well, I didn't see it when I was young, and I didn't watch it again for the podcast because I just watched it about 3 months ago for the first time.
Nice.
And so I was doing it for my binge watch of films I'd never seen over the decades.
That's right.
So I think it's a very powerful movie. I think that it's probably at this point of all the films I've seen of Paul Newman, probably my favorite role of his.
Oh, really?
I really, really liked him a lot in this, and I liked the script, I liked the writing, and I liked the direction. And I
David
thought it
Mamet,
was,
right?
Yeah, and I thought it was brilliantly edited too. I think the editing is so good in the movie, and just I like not being somebody who really finds law films, even though I'm not a lawyer, very realistic. This felt like a very realistic law thing, and I learned a lot of things in it too about the system, which I didn't really understand before. And I think this film takes it, and it feels like a very researched movie in that respect, on like how these things are really done. And it felt very real to me. I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying it felt very real to me. That's how the system works. I can't really say that having not worked in that system. Right. But I do feel like it's a very, very interesting. I want to call it a thriller, but it's not a thriller at the same time.
It's the opposite of a thriller, but it's good.
Yeah. But it has like these aspects of a thriller, but it doesn't really.
Yeah, there's some mystery and there's some discovery, and
but it's lacking the suspense that you expect from thrillers a lot of times, but it's still there in this really subtle way. And anyway, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Unlike a thriller, the stakes aren't obvious and life-threatening,
right?
Although they're perhaps soul-threatening. Like the stakes are his own sense of, maybe his own sense of decency or his own sense of himself. I mean, he's an alcoholic. I mean, let me touch on like just the general what the movie's about. It's Paul Newman plays a lawyer, he's down on his luck, kind of a disgraced lawyer almost. His reputation is not good. He's not necessarily even a very good lawyer, but he's still out there trying. He's a bit of an ambulance chaser. He is an ambulance chaser, quite often.
Very much so.
Literally, he goes to funeral homes and tries to find funerals of people who possibly died wrongfully, or he you could put pressure on somebody to get a settlement. And he comes across a case that seems like, oh, it's the same old kind of case. You know, a woman was possibly through negligence of doctors put in a coma and is on life support, and seemingly pretty obvious there's some kind of negligence. So it's like a pretty good payday, and he actually gets offered a really good settlement, but it's at a point where he's looking at his life and he's like, you know, is this right?
For doctors and you and me, have been bought off to look the other way. We've been paid to look the other way. I came here to take your money. I brought snapshots to show you so I could get your money. I can't do it. I can't take it. Because if I take the money, I'm lost. I'll just be a rich ambulance chaser.
Paul Newman was very good. I wasn't expecting the tone to be so somber necessarily, because, you know, when I think courtroom legal drama, you always in your head, you think of, like, I don't know, the scene with from Few Good Men or something, or big courtroom for all. Yeah, big courtroom emotion and reveals and you're out of order, you know, whatever. But this one, I mean, this one is more really about just, it's a character study.
Yeah, no, first of all, I hadn't seen the movie until we, you know, started doing research for this podcast. So I saw it fresh, and I was really taken with the script and the acting. It's phenomenal. I think Paul Newman is fantastic, as is Jack Warden and Charlotte Rampling. And it's, you know, if only we had a lawyer on this podcast to evaluate
I know, that would be nice.
The legal stuff. I won't go into too much detail. I think a lot of it is on the money. I think there's some important areas where they just kind of gloss over the law. Right. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. Mm-hmm. It's a story. It's not
and it's a movie for it's hard to do that for a general audience.
Yes. Although I will say, if you want to talk about legal procedure, especially evidence of an expert witness, the best legal movie, My Cousin Vinny. Anyway, I will take a step back now.
Really?
And go back. Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
Now
and accurate.
Matt hasn't seen that movie.
I have not seen it.
I think it's a very good movie, and it's
I
fun.
have nothing against seeing it. I just haven't.
Yeah,
I will.
Well, if you were wondering about how to establish an expert witness in court, you should watch that movie.
It has been gnawing at my mind. How do I do it?
The other one is watch the episode of Brady Bunch where the guy has a whiplash in the courtroom. That is really amazing.
Turned his head. Yeah, he turned his head.
No, I didn't.
I will also say one of the things I really liked about this movie, and maybe it's Mamet and maybe it's just the time or the source material, is I think if this movie was made now, one of the themes that would happen in one of the arcs in the movie, and I kept expecting it to happen, is that he would stop drinking. Right, because that's kind of what's holding him back, is he really isn't all that, you know, all that together sometimes. But he doesn't. He just keeps drinking. They're always drinking. He's always drinking. He's, you know, plopping an egg in his beer. And
you know what the scene or shot I love that shows just that shows his drinking problem and how he knows it and works around it is when he pours a shot glass to the brim.
Yeah.
And he's going to pick it up, but he's shaking. So he doesn't want to spill any, so he puts his head down and sips it a little bit, and then he can pick it up and drink it because he doesn't want to spill it. I mean, it's just like, that's an alcoholic.
Well, and at the beginning of the movie, he's playing pinball and drinking when he should be doing something else. And then later on in the movie, like when he's like all serious and he had that moment looking at the girl in the hospital and he's going to do something for what's right. And he's doing the exact same thing. Like, he doesn't change that much. And I think that that is way more accurate a depiction of reality than the, you know, if this had been made today, you'd have a montage scene with some Billy Joel song and he's not going to drink and maybe he'll try jogging or something like that.
So yeah, anything else? Oh, just the one other note I have is like, there's no way the jury didn't consider that nurse's testimony with that verdict.
Well, and if I'm going to get into the legal stuff, I'm going to say that would have been appealed because the jury was instructed not to. And I think a reasonable appeals court would go like, yeah, I think they did.
Right. But again, yeah, the movie's not about the legal system. Oh, well, it is, but it's not about the technicalities of the legal system. It's about justice, and it's about perceptions, whatnot. It's about a lot of things. I would say check it out if you can. So those are the 5 movies.
Yes.
Let me run through them one more time, and then we're gonna reveal, in case you don't know, who won the Oscar for Best Picture. So we got E.T., cute little upside down foot alien, Gandhi, big biopic, sweeping Oscar bait, Missing, political thriller, Tootsie, well-written, acted comedy, and The Verdict, a legal drama. Let me get the envelope. And the winner.
Oh no, the Oscar goes to.
I can't say Oscar, really. I can't.
Okay.
We're not affiliated, so they might.
Okay. The award goes to.
And the award goes to. I can't open this.
La La Land. Oh wait.
Yeah, La. What? No, it went to Gandhi, which is no surprise in my mind, at least. Like I said, it's a bit of an Oscar movie. It's a bit of a, it's sweeping. It's huge. It's
larger than life character.
Larger than life yeah, real character.
Real life, yeah.
Great. Well, I mean, again, these are all not necessarily bad things. It's just like that's what typically or historically the awards folks love. Great performance, admittedly, by Ben Kingsley. Fantastic.
Yep, absolutely.
Great direction by Richard Attenborough, prestige director. So, it wasn't a surprise. It won a lot. It won 11, I believe. It was nominated for a ton, and it swept a lot of the categories, not all of them. So yeah, Gandhi.
If you didn't get Best Actor, even despite Ben Kingsley's performance, I think.
I think all the people in it and director and all that stuff, I think they did the movie before they all became sirs too, right?
I'm pretty sure. Oh no, Richard Attenborough though.
I don't know if he was a sir that early.
Didn't he do well? Maybe not. They were throwing.
John Gielgud, I don't think was either yet.
They were just throwing out knighthoods left and right in the 80s later.
I take it back. Ben Kingsley did win.
Yeah, I thought he did.
Yeah.
I think it was an actress that didn't win for actress, right?
No.
There was no women in it. No.
Just his wife, and she was barely in it. So
no, there were some. Anyway, yeah. So how do you guys feel about that win? And let's talk about it in comparison to the other movies. I mean, I'll just quickly say, I think if you were to ask me who do you think would win, I'd say Gandhi, and they did.
Yes.
I would say who should win. Well, I mean, I don't have a huge problem with that. I think Missing's very good.
Yeah.
Missing probably is just as good, and it's a totally different kind of movie in a way. It's still kind of a true story, but that is a very very good movie. And even The Verdict, which for a more personal kind of story is a very worthy movie too. Yeah. I think E.T. It's a nice movie. It's just no. And again, Tootsie, I love Tootsie, but I don't think it's the best picture of the year.
No.
What do you guys think?
I personally think that of those 5, Gandhi makes the most sense.
Sure.
It makes the most sense.
And in life, Gandhi makes the most sense.
Like, yeah. Although probably my personal favorite would be Tootsie, but that would not. I don't think that should win the Oscar. But my personal pick would have probably been Missing. Just because I like the nuanced and the subtle approach a lot more than the wow, look at this guy approach.
Right. Well, again, we're seeing a very idealized version of a real person.
Yeah.
So it's nothing subtle about it.
Yeah.
It's just well done. It's well crafted, and well put together.
But, again, Gandhi does make the most sense to me as far as like that should definitely have won. Just my personal take would have been probably Missing. So,
How about y'all?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, of course, if you'd asked me before I found out, I would say, yeah, it's Gandhi. It's but for all the reasons you said, but I would also add, I think, again, these movies are voted for by the Academy. They're all filmmakers in one way or another, one respect or another. And there is a certain amount of admiration I think they have sometimes to how enormous a project is. And if it gets pulled off, well, that adds to the desire to vote for it. Titanic. But I also think that
the Wolves.
Don't even.
I already did. It's too late.
He did it.
Okay. New podcast right now. No. I personally think of those 5 movies, having rewatched them or watched them for the first time, I think the best movie that was made was Missing. And I think a close second is The Verdict.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're all really good. For me, it's the Verdict or Tootsie. And again, we get into this issue where comedies usually don't get regarded as Best Picture, but I think comedies in many ways are harder to make. So
I totally agree with that. In a certain way, Gandhi's the easiest type of movie to make. If you have the budget and you can pay for the great actors, you can pay for the cinematographer and just extras, and if you can pay for it, you can make a Gandhi.
Oh, the extras.
I mean, it's not like, again, it's not poorly directed. Don't get me wrong. It's not like anyone could off the street can make God. But if you have the budget, that's the subject matter, and you can make it happen. And
if you have the budget and you're British, it's half done.
Exactly. I'm gonna take you up on the challenge. I think we could make Gandhi. Let's go do this right now.
Let's just say, anyone out there listening or watching, if you want to give the 3 of us $25 million, we will try to redo Gandhi.
I will also say, however, looking back, historically, the most beloved of those 5 movies are E.T. and Tootsie.
Yeah.
True. Well, those are the ones that are people want to feel
good.
People want to feel good. People want nostalgia of when they were younger, perhaps. Like, people don't want to, remember when Jack Lemmon realized the government was lying to him? Oh, that was awesome.
Remember how our government supported Pinochet, who killed all those people?
Let's watch that.
Feel good.
It's Thanksgiving weekend. Let's watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's a good point.
And I think a lot of people are also like, yeah, Gandhi seems great, but that's over 3 hours.
Right. Like Mike.
Yeah.
And plus, it's like, great. I got to see a movie about some guy I'm nowhere near as noble as or good as.
Although I did see Avengers Endgame multiple times. So
good. That was 3 hours.
That was 3 hours. Yeah.
Michael.
If only Gandhi had an iron suit.
Hey, if he had the Infinity Gauntlet, it would have been awesome.
He would just go, snap. That was an Indian accent, I guess.
I know,
snap.
Thanks for that.
I know that wasn't.
Yeah,
that wasn't very good.
Yeah,
that was a Ben Kingsley accent.
Yeah,
not a whole country. No. All right, so there you go. Thanks for listening. Thanks, guys, for another exciting panel talk on movies.
All right, goodbye.
Goodbye. We'll see you next time, everybody.
See you later.